Hey, everybody. Welcome to Chan's Logic episode 53. In this episode, I really wanted to wrap up a little bit of the stuff I talked about during the Mad Lab Summit, go over the topics and the Spiderweb of Business concept that I went through and kind of reiterate and give it to people who weren't able to be there and the people who were there who asked if we recorded it and wanted a copy and to be able to listen to it. So the Spiderweb of Business is the concept that I created when I was essentially sitting on the airplane. I wanted to make something that was new for the summit that would give immediate value to people who can go home and use it right away. And so I organized 3 different presentations to talk about. And the first one was overall the Spiderweb of Business and how to organize it, how to architect it, what you should be doing, why you should be doing it, and then how you should be doing it. And the fact and the whole concept is the idea that we don't want to depend on one specific platform or one specific avenue in order to drive business all the time. Because if something happens and you lose the capabilities of utilizing that platform, your whole business crumbles if you've only been using one thing. But if you've been focusing on several different platforms and several different avenues, especially for the local business, all these different ways of driving business, you're going to put yourself in a much better position. And you're going to put yourself in a position to where you're not necessarily dependent on one thing. So you're in a position where if one thing does fall apart, you're okay and you're capable of actually working with other things. And so you don't become dependent on the one thing that could potentially crash. And that potential crash could crush your whole business if that's the one thing you depend on. So the concept of this is what do we need to do to build a business that doesn't depend on one single can thrive and win, focusing on our strength in several different parameters of driving business. And so when we look at this, the big things that I want to go through and go over is number one, when you're building into your business and you're building in your brands, it starts with being organized and win and continuously do what we're doing and continuously process and make sure it's going to work. And so the first phase of strategic planning is the discovery phase. And this is the phase where we need to understand whether or not what we're doing is a good idea. Maybe is it a bad idea? What could go well? What could go right? What could go wrong? What's kind of in between? What are the variables we haven't thought of yet? What is the budget we need for this? What are the staffing requirements that we need for this? There's so many different things we need to map out in the discovery phase. And once we get that done, we can do a cost benefit analysis and say, okay, based on what we learned and figured out during the discovery phase, is this a good idea? And we make that decision based off of all the information we collected and this cost benefit that we go through. Then the next phase we look at is the planning phase. And the planning phase is really when we've decided that what we're doing is a good idea and we're in a position to where we are going to move it forward. The benefit outweighed the potential cost, and it's going to be a good idea. And we think it's going to be successful in the long run for the most part. So planning is now we need to organize what we're doing and do an actual planning phase. So how is this going to be structured? How is it going to be function? Where does everybody go? How does everybody get there? How do we allocate the budget for this? How do we use the different platforms we need to use? And we need to make sure that everything's planned down to a T. And then at the same time, when we're doing this planning phase, we need to make sure the planning we're doing is organized to where we know and understand that things can and will go wrong several times. And so you need to be ready to have a plan C for when everything goes wrong. And plan C needs to be organized in a way to where it's not just you who knows what it is. You need to make sure that your staff knows what it is and your staff is capable of actually using it and going through it. So they know how to cycle through the different plans. And this is an incredibly important piece of the planning phase. We need to make sure that we always know and understand what can go wrong, will go wrong, and we need to be ready for it. And not just us, but all of our staff and the people involved as well. Once we finish the planning phase, we go into phase 3, which is our execution phase. And in the execution phase, we basically need to say, okay, now we're actually doing this. Okay, this is how the plan works. This is what we're doing for the plan, and we are doing it. This is maybe a 1-day execution. Maybe it's a 6-month execution, 1-year execution, 2-week execution. But this is when we're actually doing it, we're actually performing it, and we're going through the plan. And this is where everything either goes right or everything goes wrong, but we get through it anyway. Once we move from the execution phase, we move into the post-execution analysis phase. And this phase is really when we're looking at, okay, what did go well? What didn't go well? What was the feedback from my staff, myself, and the customers involved or the people involved who weren't staff or myself? And how do I take what I initially had and move all of this stuff I've just learned from the feedback I've gained and make it better for the next discovery phase or for the next planning phase? And that's what the post-execution analysis phase is. It's understanding that We always need to be cognizant, and we always need to be able to recognize what happened, how it happened, and how we can make it better. Because these 4 phases of planning are always going to go right back into themselves, and you're going to continuously cycle through it. And you're going to make your event better and better and better over time based on this. So once we get done with these 4 phases of strategic planning, now we're ready to actually start moving forward in our marketing and moving forward in our business and moving forward in our processes. And the first step is we need to understand, especially in the small business world, and I see this a lot in brick and mortar businesses, is we need to create some clarity around our brand. We need to make sure that what we're doing isn't something that we're trying to do to make a quick buck or to make money by diversifying or trying to do something that just is getting us away from where our direction is and where the clarity in our direction is. And the first step here is and create clarity in our brand. And by clarity, what I mean is you need to understand what is your strategic purpose? What is your specific purpose? Who are you? Why are your brand? And why is your brand doing this? What is the main program organized around your brand? What is your biggest strength? Where is your potential main revenue source? Seems like a good idea, and it seems like we should diversify, but in reality, all we're doing is pushing ourselves too thin, and we're putting ourselves in a position to where we're going to run a bunch of different unprofitable programs rather than one really good, clean, crisp, and clear profitable program. And so when you're building any sort of marketing strategy or any sort of business strategy or sales strategy, we really need to make sure that we have some clarity in our brand. What are we so good at that no one can touch us on? What are we so incredibly amazing at that we just destroy everybody with it? And what is that one topic and that one idea and that one concept or that one service we offer that will trump everybody? And that's what we need to create first. And we need to make sure that we have that one successful program before we start looking into other programs, because that one successful program is ultimately going to drive the reputation in our community. It's going to drive the profitability of your program, and it's going to drive how good you are at what you do. You can either be kind of good at 7 different things or really, really good at one specific successful program that you know you're good at and that you've been doing for a long time. And once we get one thing highly successful and we've built up the staff to support what we're doing, then and only then can we branch out and build more programs, because then we're in a position to where we have a successful program. We have staff who might have strengths in other places, and we can use our staff and leverage them to branch out and build more programs to create profitable programs outside of that. But only when we have established an actual program that is profitable and successful and becomes the main program we have and the main offering we have and the main thing that drives that revenue and that business to us. You really want to leverage those strengths. You want to avoid not being good at everything. You want to be really good at one different thing. So think about leveraging your strengths and what your core competency is in your business before you start branching out and building a bunch of different things. And so now let's go into and let's talk about the spiderweb of growth strategies that I talked about at the beginning. And just getting here took some time, because we need to understand that there's phases of strategic planning that go into this. There's building and understanding clarity around your brand, so you're not running around like a crazy person with not good at anything. And ultimately, it all leads us to this spiderweb of growth strategy segment that we're looking at. And when we look at this, it comes down to understanding that we need different segments and different parameters to drive in and build business. And we can't depend on just one, because if we lose that one, we're in a lot of trouble. And so for me, the first one we're going to start with is social media. For social media, we really need a platform where we are the hero in our area. We are the one business, the one place, and the one person essentially who is going to be the guide to making sure everybody's journey is complete and everybody has a good journey and everybody knows that they can come to you because you are the best at what you do. You're the ultimate hero in your community. And based what we do and how we build this daily content and what I do and what I like to build with other businesses is we base it on the strength and personalities of our staff and the strength and personalities of the business and the core competency and the needs and the wants of the customer. So we build specific pieces of content around what our staff is good at, the personalities of our staff, and the needs and wants and the personalities and needs of the customer. Because if we take both of these things, what we do is we create a humanistic drive and a humanistic feel in our brand that your staff can showcase, that makes them feel human. It makes the customers want to connect with them, and it makes the business feel human. And it gets rid of the the super well done out content that people kind of tend to ignore nowadays, and puts in content that's more real, more personable, and has just real life people that real life people can connect to it. And that's what the customer wants. They want people they can feel like they can connect to, and they want people they feel like that they can actually talk to, and people that aren't unreachable and perfect, because perfection doesn't necessarily build that bond. Imperfection builds that trust and that bond. So what we need to look at from a fundamental level when we start building this content, especially when we're starting to speak to the customers, is what do people struggle with and what do they need at the fundamental level? So if we're in fitness, people are struggling with the fact that they don't feel comfortable around other people when they're trying to get fit. They feel like they're going to get judged. They feel like they're never going to get where they need to get. They're not confident. They're depressed. They're stressed out, and they just don't think they're ever going to figure it out. So we need to take all of that down to the fundamental level and map out and write down content to leverage the fact that we are like them, and we are humans, and we do struggle with not feeling adequate, and we do struggle with lack of confidence, and we do struggle with our own weight, and we do struggle with eating healthy. So that way we do have that humanistic emotion and that humanistic feel that allows us to connect with people. And no matter what kind of business you're in, you're going to be able to set this up in a way to where you are able to connect with people, and you are able to connect with the pain points and problems. No matter if you're in business, you're solving a problem and you're providing and creating a solution so people can feel safe and comfortable or happy at the fundamental level. And what we need to do is identify the why behind that. Why do they feel that way, and why do they come to you? And so then once we get past the content portion, because the content is essentially the gateway, we start looking at paid advertising. And paid advertising, especially on social media right now, are incredibly effective, and you can get in front of people, a lot of people, at in a really cost-effective way. And so the paid advertising I'd recommend that we look at once we get past the content is Facebook and LinkedIn ads. They're probably the most viable, and that they're essentially the most cost-effective at this point. They're going to be the things that we can run. They're going to drive a good amount of traffic in, that have a great ROI that we can reinvest back in and essentially win in the long run. So once we get the ideal way to really talk about paid advertising and really build what we're doing in terms of paid advertising is we need to look at what people want and what people need. And when we do this, we want to organize this in two ways. So the ideal ad tells a story and then throws a hook. So what you're doing is you're telling a story to build upon the emotions of the people who are paying attention to it. You need to tell the story to draw them in, tell the story to get them excited about you, tell the story to break through the mold, to opt in and throw a hook. And the hook is essentially, once they get the story, the hook is the ask. And this is a little bit of a blend of branding and brand awareness building and the brand style of marketing and the direct style of marketing. So we combine them. We tell the story because we need to draw them in. Then we throw a hook because we need to go for the ask. A lot of people tell the story really well and they do the content really well, but they forget to throw the hook and they forget to go for the ask, so they never do drive in business. So this is one of the most incredibly important pieces that we can organize here. We need to be able to tell that story, and then we can't forget to throw that hook. And when we organize this, we're going to use stories from our clients. And what I recommend is sitting down with your clients, asking them, what was going on in your mind when you were looking for a solution to your problems? And when you were looking for that solution, what did you feel? What were the feelings that were happening and were going on? Then when you found us, what were the first thoughts that went through your mind? What was it like walking through our door or going onto our website or interacting with us for the first time? How did you feel when you started working with us? How did you feel on your first day? How did you feel when you first met us? Walk me through the specific ideas and the specific problems you were having or the specific feelings you were experiencing at that point. And then why do you stick around? Why do you keep coming back? Why do you like what we do? Why do you want to be part of our story? Why do you feel comfortable with us at this point? What feelings do you have now? Do your friends and family see anything different? Do they talk about it? Do you talk to them about it? And then funniest memories with us. What's one of your best memories with us? We want to, essentially with this, what we want to do is we want to create a story that showcases adversity and how people overcame it, showcases the problems they were experiencing and then what they did to overcome it and how it essentially brought them to us and how we made them feel comfortable making that decision. So this is really where someone was at And now where are they at this point? And we're going to use motivation and fear in this, because motivation, we're going to use fear in the beginning. This is how they were afraid, and this is where they were going. And then motivation is going to be how they pulled out of it, how they drove past it, how they came to see us, and how we made them feel comfortable. And so we're going to use both of these aspects to really tell that story, that powerful story, to get them excited about us and to get them to want to be part of what the potential customer in the future, to be part of what we do. Then once we've told a great story and we've drove them in, now we need to go for the ask. So we need to get them to click on something and go somewhere, a landing page or a lead ad or something like that. And so the story drives them in. The landing page is essentially your hook. So you don't want to tell another story on the landing page. You've already captivated them enough to get them to click and go to the landing page. So now at this point, our goal with the landing page is to get them to take action. So you've told the story. Now we need to think on the landing page about what is the end result? What is the ultimate goal? And what is the ultimate win for this person? How can you put that one sentence on this page that tells them exactly where they want to be and how they're going to get there? They don't necessarily care how they're going to get there, but they do care that they are going to get there, and they do care what it is, and they want to see it there. That is your hook. So what is the ultimate goal, and how are you going to help them get there? How do they get there? What is the end goal? And that needs to be on the hook, and it needs to be the end goal. Boom, opt in with us, and you have your form and they fill it out. And this is essentially how you're going to show what the end result is, and then how you're going to fix it. And so you need to think about your landing page organized in that way. So it's the headline is how you're going to fix their problem, the ultimate problem they have. How do you fix it? Then it needs to be a form. And some of the things that convert really well on landing page tend to be scarcity. So it has to be something limited. And then they have to have they have to have a reason to opt in. People do not make decisions if you don't help them make a decision. So find some way to put some scarcity on your product or service and put that on there. It's why you see when you're booking a plane ticket with the airlines now that it says there's only 4 tickets available. It's because you think you need to book that right now. So you'll make that decision. Otherwise, you'll go back and forth to 39 different airlines for 2 weeks and try to figure something out. It's a battle between consumers and marketing. It's how to decision in an ethical way. Well, I have to provide scarcity on my product or service to get them to make those decisions. And at the same time, you want to add in some social proof. So pictures of happy customers, pictures of success stories, and then some Yelp and Facebook and Google reviews. And then we have the social proof we need to showcase to other people that, yeah, we do work with real people. And yeah, that end result, these people did it. You can do it too. These are people who are like you. You can be like them. One thing that we really miss out on, though, once we get these people opting in, because half the battle is getting them to opt in. But the next piece, and the next most difficult piece of the battle, is making sure that your sales process is in contact within 5 minutes of the prospect opting in, because we need to get them when their phone's in their face, they're not busy, and they have that opportunity to talk to us. And I'd recommend texting immediately and asking for a good time for when a phone call is. And if you can, off your forms, you can get them to schedule in. If you're having people schedule in straight off your landing page forms without human contact, I would have them schedule in for a phone consult. One of the keys here, and one of the reasons behind that, is if you can get them to schedule in for a phone consult, it adds in a humanistic connection, which is going to increase their chances and them being likely to come in by up to 50%. You schedule it takes them to a phone consult for the schedule, and the phone consult then puts them in and basically qualifies them to come into your facility and reduces the chance that they're going to no-show on you and actually they're going to show up for your appointment, which is what we want. So once you get this done, say you do go on that phone consult. So they schedule themselves for the phone consult. They should get an immediate text asking for confirming that phone call. And if you don't get a response, you send an email, and then maybe you text them the day before the phone call. If you don't get a hold of them, you text and call once a day for maybe 7 days, or up to 15 days if you really want to be on it. But you just need to make sure that you always have the opportunity to get back in contact with people, because they're busy. And if they don't want to be part of your service anymore, they'll tell you. And so just keep going until they tell you not to contact them anymore. So here's the sales process in a rundown, basically. So you text to get them on the phone. You basically have the landing page. They opt in. They go to a form to where they can actually schedule themselves in on your form. They schedule themselves in. They go to a phone consult. So you give them a text to confirm the phone consult. You get on the phone consult. You pre-call them on the phone, establish the human contact, thereby increasing their show-up rate. Schedule the appointment for their first day. Text to confirm that immediately. Then you text them to confirm the day before their actual appointment. And then you text them the day of to confirm that appointment and have them reply with a C to confirm. It's incredibly important that we have these touch points and we are in contact with them all the time, because what happens is people forget. They'll completely forget and have no recollection of it at all. And then they'll remember 2 days later when you call them afterwards. So we need to make sure that we are in front of them enough to make sure they continuously remember, and they have several opportunities from both email, text, and phone call to be reminded of the appointment and to ensure that they actually show up. So that's kind of how we work with people who are in the online environment, who are opting on a landing page from social media and all that stuff. But that can't be the end of the journey, because if that's the end of the journey, then you're depending on one thing too much to get you to the next level. And we need to make sure that we don't have that dependence. And we need to make sure that, yes, it is a viable and a very good solution to drive business in, but also at the same time, we have a lot of other platforms and a lot of other pathways and systems and things that we're using to drive business in. So the next piece that I think you should focus on is local business development. And local business development is basically go to businesses within 5 miles of your local business and create mutual partnerships. So set up coffee clubs together, go to sports stores and talk together, running stores, clothing stores, anybody who owns a business within your local business that is seemingly somewhat similar. You should go in there and talk about how you guys can create a partnership together. And it's not walking in there and trying to sell them stuff right away. It's walking in there, drinking their coffee, walking in there, buying their stuff, getting to know every single person behind the counter, all the managers, everybody in place. So when you do go to create these mutual partnerships, they're much more likely to want to actually move forward because you've established a friendship and shown them. So local biz dev is huge. And from this, say, your business, and if you're a local brick and mortar business, start talking to people all around you, probably 5 to 10 a month. Out of those 5 to 10, you'll get 2 or 3 really good partnerships. Once you do this for about 6 months, and remember, you are the leader in this. They're also overworked business owners. So you're going to have to keep following up. You're going to have to build this up. You're going to have to give them the ideas, and you're just going to have to get used to it. But from this, you can essentially build your own networking group. So you after a while, and after you've been doing this with people, you say, hey, why don't we meet once every 2 weeks or once a month or however, once a week? And let's just talk about how we can refer business together and what we can do to really grow together in this little group. And from that, you essentially build your own sort of BNI networking group, which is great because it's something you handpicked and put together versus something that's already been put together to benefit whatever microcosm that's in that area. And what you can do from that now is, okay, maybe we want to host events together. So let's do a coffee tasting, a chocolate tasting. Let's do some sort of painting event. Whatever it is that you have near you, you guys can host events and do things together to drive not only your customers in, but theirs in, and then leverage the relationship everybody has to grow together and in a unique way. So once you get past your local business development, we're going to start looking at corporate programs. And corporate programs, especially if you're in the gym environment or any sort of service industry environment, you can really set some neat things up with corporate programs. And you can set it up in a way to where essentially first you want to look to your membership and your clients first for connections. So who works in HR, who owns businesses, who's a CEO, who's at least at an executive level, who can talk to somebody and get you a good meeting, because this gets you past all the spam that they get on a daily basis. Going to say, yeah, I'll vouch for them. They're legit. They should come in and do this. Then what this should lead into is a presentation. So you go in and you give them a presentation, a 21-day, 30-day, or 90-day program that gets the CEOs and the execs and everybody excited and motivated and juiced up to do this. And we want to think, especially if you're in the gym business, that we want to think fitness plus nutrition plus gamification. So we have a fitness program in it. We have a nutrition system oriented around it. And then we gamify it to get people to show up. And then the most important part of this is collecting data. The more data we collect in our corporate programs, the more data we have to serve and showcase to the other corporations that we're going to go to in the future. And I can say, yeah, we did this. Look how organized we are and look how much success we had with it. We could do this with you as well. So then once we get our corporate programs established, you should focus on workshops and events. And workshops and events are where you take those strategic partners we built with maybe our corporate programs and our local business dev that we do. And we start to partner with these local businesses to host workshops and events. If you're a gym, you can have low back pain clinics with physical therapists. You can have shoulder pain clinics with chiropractors, healthy eating clinics with nutritionists or with the local grocery store, Whole Foods Market, and a lot of these other big chains are always looking for ways they can support the community. So healthy eating is always big for those guys, and you can support them and they'll support you. If you're looking at doing other things that don't have anything to do with it, you can do chocolate tastings together. You can do wine and painting events, all of that kind of stuff. Any one of these things, you can bring both your communities in and create an ecosystem around everything that you're all doing in order to leverage the happiness and excitement of everybody, and not just your community, but their community. And you can establish and build the trust amongst both that you didn't have already. I always say for these workshops, the price of admission is the person's contact info, and you make a big donation to charity that everybody puts in for, and then it builds brand goodwill around it. So we have a workshop, we're donating to charity, and we're using both of our networks to leverage and drive everybody in. And in this way, everybody feels like they're really contributing to something good, something solid, and something they can be proud of. So I think the next thing we really need to look at when we're doing a lot of these community events and a lot of these workshops is community events. So we want to be where our target market is. So if you're doing anything to do with wine, you can do wine walks. Make sure you put everybody in your t-shirts, invite all your clients out and go out for a wine walk. If it has to do with running, or running's in your target market, everybody put on your t-shirts and everybody go run. Some people walk. Just be there with all of your people with your gear on. That's the real big power in this, is getting everybody to the thing, wearing all of the stuff that you have for them, all the gear that they want to buy anyway, or all the stuff that they want to buy anywhere, and have them showcase it to the world. Then people are going to start asking questions about it. And you can take people's information and it becomes a pretty neat little event, or it's just a huge brand awareness driver where we can go there and we can really drive in business because they're aware of what we're doing. They see us out all the time in the places where they're already hanging out. So you're going to where your prospects are, and you're essentially hanging out and showing them people who are really like them. So a couple of things that we don't want to forget about when we do this, and I think some people forget about this now, is email marketing. It's one of the most important tools we still use, one of the most important things you can use, and it's also one of the most powerful tools we can still use. So when we think about emails, yes, the click-through rates and the open rates are lower, but we still need to look at it in a format of newsletters and stories plus direct sales. And what it looks like is you should send a weekly content digest out with all the content you put on your social in your newsletter for people who have missed out. So now you're giving them value and you're allowing them to go to all the other spots where you do stuff and providing that value there and giving them the opportunity to see it. And then in addition to the weekly digest, what I would do is send a weekly story about success, motivation, fear, something based on the experiences with current clients. So how did they get here? How did they feel? All the stuff we talked about earlier. Send a written success story in an email format weekly. And so then every third story, you want to go for a direct call to action. Say, hey, you've read our stories. We have people just like you. It's time for you to come make a decision and not miss what we're doing. And then you put a button. Okay, hey, book in an appointment. I'm going to call you and we're going to make your life better. We're going to make this happen. So remember, your every third story, you have that direct call to action. And direct call to action means don't beat around the bush, directly and literally ask them to do something. That's it. And you've already told enough stories, you've given enough value with your content digest that this direct call to action will get them inspired and tell themselves, I should come to do this. Maybe it is time for me. I've read all their stuff. I think I can do this. And in addition to those kind of emails, I'd say once every 6 months, we need to send an email out inviting old members and old clients back in who maybe didn't sign up, or old clients who were purchasing and aren't purchasing anymore. Invite them back in, tell them, hey, we miss you. We'd love to see you back in, check out some. And then people who came and didn't buy anything or didn't sign up or who didn't stick around, come back, give them an email like, hey, time then, maybe it is now. Check out some of these great successes we've had. So just make sure that you're always going back to previous people who were clients and previous people who purchased something and stopped buying or subscribed at one point and stopped subscribing, and asking them like, hey, is now the right time? And it's an incredibly useful tool. And once every 6 months is just enough to not be annoying. So you'll get a couple of them to come back every so often. And it never hurts to continuously ask. They'll unsubscribe and they'll stop paying attention to it if they don't want to be part of it anymore. And so the last thing I think we'll talk about is SEO. I get asked about SEO. It is important. It's incredibly important. It hasn't fallen off the wayside that much. There's still people searching. There's still people out there. And anyone who tells you it's not important probably is isn't necessarily maybe well versed in or doesn't understand where it's headed. But SEO in today's world is built by blogs that answer questions and provide helpful advice and useful content for people. So you want to help fix their problems, answer their questions in the form of FAQs, and then give them valuable feedback that they can, when they Google search for it, pops up. That's what we want. You don't have to keyword stuff. You don't have to do any of that stuff anymore. You just have to provide value, just like you need to do on social to engage with people. Then put up YouTube videos for SEO. So your YouTube videos in the description, both in the title and the description, are going to rank on Google. So if you're the only one putting up videos, this is in terms of videos on YouTube. Google owns YouTube. So it's going to be a really big piece to where you can rank. And then finally, you want to get as many sites as possible to link back to your website. So you want to go out and give guest blogs, find friends who will link back to you, just as many as humanly possible that are real. You want to get to link back to you. And it might be you writing to people, setting up friends of friends pages. So all people are linking back to you and you have this whole friends of friends site based on the people you're networking with. But the more sites that link to you, the better off and the more verifiable Google is going to think you are. So remember, in this whole thing, and this big, long podcast was just about teaching you and helping you understand that we don't want to depend on just one avenue to drive business. We need to make sure that we have that spider web of growth, and we have several different platforms and several different ways to do this. So if one way tanks, our whole business doesn't tank. You might lose a big chunk, but we're not going to fall apart and fail because one piece falls apart or one piece goes down the drain. So think about that when you're looking into what you're doing and when you're building your businesses and when you're trying to build your lead generation strategies. Just make sure that you have a spider web of growth and then map it out. So what am I doing? Okay, I have social, I have community events, I have corporate programs, I have all these different relationship driving parameters that are leading into one spot. My core value proposition, the one thing that I know I'm really good at, the one thing that I'm providing clarity with, and the one thing that I know I can crush it with. That's all I got to say tonight. If you get some help with this, shoot me an email, chandler@stoneagefuel.com. I'd love to help you out. Love to give you a little bit of info and just help support you. If you guys got questions, you can also post it in the comments if you're listening to this live. Anyway, that's all for now. See ya.